So I'm drafting out my basic bodice. So at that start line, I'm going to be taking my shoulder measurements plus half an inch for seam allowance. That's 8.5 inches. Then I'm going to be coming down by that point by 1 inch. So I'm going to be taking my neck width at 3 inches. Then I'll mark it. Then I'll square with a slanted line. That's 1 inch to my neck width of 3 inches. So I'm going to be taking my chest measurement or my armhole measurement at 7.5 inches, and I'll just mark that there. Then I will square it out with a straight line. So that's my chest line and that's my shoulder line there. So at my chest line, I'm going to be taking the same 8.5 inches and marking it. This is for me to just have a straight line. So from my shoulder point, I'm taking my full length, which is 20 inches, but I added 1 inch to make it 21 inch. I also took my bust point, which is 11 inches, and I'm going to square it out. So I'm squaring out my bust point. I'm taking this bust point because I need to add a side dart to this dress or to this top. So that's my shoulder line. So the width of my neck is 3 inches. Then I'll take 4 inches as the depth of the neck. Then I'm going to just use my curve ruler to give it that round neck shape. You can totally use your free hand at this point if you don't have a curve ruler. The curve ruler is not necessary. So from my chest line, I'm going to be coming down by 3 inches. I'm sorry, my hand is blocking at this point. So I came down by 3 inches from my chest line. This is to create the bust dart. Then from my nipple point, I'll take my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches, and I'll mark that there. So I'm going to square that 3 inches to that 4-inch point with a straight line, or rather a slanted line, slightly slanted. Just depend on how yours is. It mustn't be slanted. So at that 3 inches point, I'm going to go up and down, like take a half inch at both sides of that line. Then I'm going to, from my bust point, I went up by 1 inch. Then I'm going to be squaring the line out. So I'm taking my bust measurement, which is 40 divided by 4, which is 10, and I'm going to be taking it and taking 2 inch extra. That 2 inches for 1 inch for that and 1 inch for ease allowance. So I'll just mark that same 12 inches at my bust. I'll just mark it at my full length. So what the reason I'm doing this is because this is a box top. This is not fitted. It's a box top. You can see I didn't add any waistline. This is because there's no need to contour it, so just stay loose at the body. So at the midpoint of my dart, I'm going to be going up by half of an inch. I'm marking it there. So this is one way to do your bust dart. So I'm going to be slanting it to the full length. I'm just going to be slanting it to the full length. I'm doing this because when I sew my bust that I don't want it to be short of fabric, and from that point I'm also going to be slanting it to my chest line. So you can do it like this, or you can fold in the dart. So I'll just erase that first one and fold in the darts, but any one you do is totally fine. So I'll choose to fold in my dart. So I'm going to fold in from the bottom dart, from the bottom dart leg. I'm going to fold it. You can see me struggling a bit, but I'm going to fold it. Man, the struggle, guys. I'm going to fold it to my first dart leg. So I took my bottom dart leg and folded it to over to my first dart leg, and I'm just going to be pinning it right there. So we're almost done with our drafting. So at my armhole, I'm going to take the midpoint of my armhole, and I'm just folding over my tape. So I'm going to take the midpoint and mark there. So from there, I'm going to curve out my armhole with my curve ruler. You can totally do this with your free hand, guys. So we are done with this front pattern, so we're going to be cutting it out. So what I did is that I just placed the front pattern on the fresh pattern paper to cut out the back pattern. So I'm going to be using the front to cut out the back. So I'm just pinning it down to secure the paper. So you can see at the top of the paper I left about 1.5 inches before placing my front pattern. That is because I want the back to be longer than the front at that shoulder level. So from my front shoulder I'm going to be going up by 1.5 inches, and I'll mark it. So I'll just mark that 1.5 inches straight up. I really don't know why I was marking it like this. Oh, Jesus. So I'm just rolling it just to get a straight slanted line, if that makes sense. So you can see me drawing the shoulder to meet that 1.5 inch addition I made at the top. So I'm just trying to straighten out the line here so that I won't make a mistake. So I'll just cut it out. So this is the only thing I added to the back pattern. That's just the only thing I added. So I'll just be cutting everything out exactly the same. But you can see that I folded that side that we left at the front, I folded it in. I left it pinned. Please take note. So I'm just cutting. The same length, the same everything. It's just that shoulder level that we had to add 1.5. You can add 1.5, you can add 2. I just decided to add 1.5 inches. So I'm just bending it over, just trying to lap it with my front shoulder and marking my neck width. You can see I marked my neck with upwards. So from that, my back and my front shoulder points, I'll just roll a straight line like that. And I'll connect my back neckline. Just trying to like get a smooth neckline since I wasn't using my curve ruler. I'm just making sure that the neck and width is equal with the front neck width. So I'll just cut out the back neckline. So that's basically it for the back. I'm trying to get the facing for the front panel. So I just placed my front panel on top of a piece of paper. And I'm going to be using the piece of paper to cut the facing. So I'm pinning it down. I don't know why I'm making this process unnecessarily long though. Just pin it down. And at that shoulder level, I'm going to be taking 3.5 inches. This is not a necessary step, guys. You can just cut it out according to how it is. Just follow the shape. No need to mark with a ruler again. But I don't know, I just did it like that as the spirit led at that time. So I'm just marking out, tracing out my front neckline. Totally unnecessary, but I did it anyway. So and also the full length. So I'm going to be cutting it out. You see why I said it was unnecessary? Because I was going to cut it out anyway. So okay. So I'm just cutting it out according to the shape, everything. So we have successfully achieved the facing for the front panel. As easy as that. So what I'm going to be doing now is to shape my facing. So at that top part, on my shoulder part, I decided to go in by 4 inches instead of the 3.5 inches I took initially. I just decided to go in by 4 inches. So at that bottom part, I went in by 3 inches. I made the mark at 3 inches, then I connected that 3 inches to that 4 inches on top, just to give my facing a shape, sort of. So I'm cutting it out. So this is my facing for the front, all done. My front facing is done. So I'm just placing it on the front panel to check if everything is equal, because you want everything to be equal. And yes, it is equal. So what I'll be doing now is to cut out the facing for the back panel. I'm just bringing another piece of paper and I'll be placing it under my back panel to cut it out. I'm just making sure the center is lying perfectly. So at the shoulder point, I'm marking the same 4 inches I marked at my front. I'm marking that same 4 inches. So I'm just going to be cutting it out. This is what I would have done for the for the front panel. Just cut it out, please. Don't go through that process. I'm just cutting it out exactly the same shape and everything. I'm just marking on my 4 inches again and making sure, because I really want the facing to be equal. So I'm just giving the facing the shape that I want. I just curved it, just gave it a round shape sort of, and I'm going to be cutting it out. And voila, that's my facing for the back. So all done. I'm just checking it to see if it's equal, and yes, it is equal. So that's my facing for the back.